The courtroom was silent. The air was thick with tension, like everyone there was holding their breath. At the center, a man sat, his fingers tapping nervously on the table. Beside him, a woman smiled too brightly, her hand lightly touching his arm, as if nothing could go wrong. She was the other woman, the mistress. The husband, once proud and respected, now looked smug, like he was about to win something big. But nobody knew what was coming next. At the other side of the courtroom, a black woman walked in. Her steps were slow, steady, but her heart raced. She held her head high, though her eyes betrayed a mix of hurt and anger. This woman, once in love, had discovered a betrayal that cut deep, deeper than words could ever explain. Today, she was here to face the man she once called her husband, and the woman who had stolen her trust. The judge entered, his robe flowing, eyes sharp and serious. The room fell even quieter. Cameras clicked, not missing a single detail. The husband smiled, glancing at the cameras. He wanted this moment to show the world he had moved on. His mistress laughed softly, leaning close to him. But the black woman didn't flinch. She had been through enough to know that confidence could be dangerous. The clerk called the case. Husband of the plaintiff and the alleged other woman, please approach the bench. The husband walked forward with the mistress on his arm, their heads held high, not noticing the eyes burning into them from across the room. The black woman's lawyer whispered something to her. She nodded, taking a deep breath. She knew this was more than just a divorce case. This was about justice, respect, and truth. The husband picked up the pen to sign the divorce papers. The mistress smiled wider, leaning over as if to whisper something in his ear. Everyone in the courtroom watched, feeling the tension crackle like electricity. Cameras zoomed in on the moment. The pen hovering, the husband's smirk, the mistress's sly grin. The black woman's heart sank, but she held herself together. She had seen this coming, but seeing it in real life made it sharper, more painful. Then, just as he started to sign, the judge spoke. His voice cut through the silence like a knife. Before you put your signature on those papers, do you fully understand what you are agreeing to? The courtroom froze. The husband glanced up, surprised, as if this question had never occurred to him. The mistress stiffened. The black woman leaned forward, sensing a spark of hope. The husband nodded quickly. Yes, Your Honor. We understand. He didn't notice the slight twitch in the judge's eyebrow. The judge continued, his tone calm but firm. This is not just about signatures and legal papers. This is about responsibility, honesty, and consequences. Are you both ready to accept what comes next? The husband's confidence wavered for the first time. The mistress looked uneasy. Something in the judge's tone made them realize they were not in control anymore. The black woman's eyes narrowed slightly. She felt a mix of satisfaction and nervous anticipation. She had been wronged, humiliated, and betrayed. But today, she had a chance to watch the truth unfold. The judge leaned forward, peering over his glasses. The court will not tolerate deception or disrespect. I warn you both, think carefully about your next actions. As the husband finally placed the pen on the paper, a sudden knock at the courtroom door caused everyone to jump. A clerk hurried in, handing the judge an envelope. The judge opened it slowly, his eyes scanning the contents. The husband swallowed hard. The mistress's smile faded. The black woman felt her pulse quicken. Whatever was in that envelope could change everything in a single moment. The judge looked up, his gaze sweeping over the room. It seems, he said slowly, there are matters here that must be addressed before any signatures are valid. The husband's face turned pale. The mistress's hand trembled. Whispers spread across the courtroom like wildfire. The black woman held her breath. The tension was unbearable. Every eye in the courtroom was fixed on the judge. No one moved. No one spoke. The silence itself seemed to demand attention. Then the judge stood, his voice echoing. This court has seen betrayal, lies, and dishonesty. Today, we will see justice, not just paperwork. Let us begin. The black woman's lips curled into a small, satisfied smile. This was the beginning of something bigger than a divorce. This was the start of a reckoning, and neither the husband nor the mistress would know what hit them. The camera zoomed in on the husband's shaking hands. The mistress's face turned from confidence to fear. And in the back, the black woman remained composed, ready to witness the storm that was about to break. The courtroom doors closed behind the judge, and the fate of 3 lives was about to be decided. And in that moment, everyone realized this divorce was not going to be easy. It was going to be unforgettable. Before the courtroom drama, life had seemed normal. The black woman and her husband had shared years together, laughter echoing in their home, dreams whispered late at night. But behind closed doors, cracks had begun to appear, small, almost invisible at first. A phone left too long in his pocket, a sudden excuse to stay late at work, a distracted smile that didn't reach his eyes. These were small things, but for the woman who loved deeply, they were warnings she could not ignore. It had started with a text message. Just one, seemingly innocent. "Can we meet?" it read. She didn't know the sender, but her gut twisted. She asked her husband casually about it, and he laughed, dismissing it as a friend needing advice. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him. But something about the way he avoided her gaze made her stomach churn. As days passed, the messages grew more frequent. She noticed him slipping his phone into his pocket when she entered the room. Laughter she didn't recognize drifted from behind closed doors. He seemed different, excited, nervous, distant all at once. She tried to ignore it, convincing herself it was nothing. But deep inside, she knew it was something dangerous. Then came the day she accidentally saw them together. The mistress, a woman who seemed perfect, polished, and confident. They laughed too freely, touched too casually. The image burned itself into her mind. Shock froze her in place, anger boiling beneath her skin. The betrayal was real. The person she had trusted with her heart, her life, had crossed a line that could never be undone. She didn't confront him immediately. First, she watched, collected evidence, tried to understand how far this had gone. She found messages hidden in deleted folders, emails sent in secrecy, photos exchanged when she thought he was at work. Each discovery hurt more than the last, but it also strengthened her resolve. She would not crumble. She would not be a victim forever. Meanwhile, the mistress played her part perfectly. Outwardly charming, she smiled in public, laughed with the husband, acted as if she had won a prize. But there were cracks in her armor too. Small mistakes, little slips that revealed her insecurity. She knew she was part of something forbidden, something dangerous, but she loved the thrill, the feeling of control. She didn't care about the consequences yet. Back at home, the black woman's world had begun to shift. Friends noticed her sadness, the tension in her voice, the quiet moments when she stared at nothing. She didn't explain, didn't complain. She prepared. She built a plan in her mind, one that would make sure the truth came out, one that would make sure justice was served. She didn't need revenge, not exactly. She needed recognition, respect, and the balance of truth. The husband, meanwhile, had convinced himself that nothing would go wrong. He thought the secrecy was perfect, that no one would notice. Every meeting with the mistress, every lie told, every betrayal felt safe, until the first whisper of doubt crept into his mind. He tried to justify it, saying to himself, "It's just a fling, it doesn't matter." But deep down, even he knew the walls were closing in. And then, the day came when the black woman found a clue that changed everything. A receipt, a photograph, something small but undeniable. Her hand shook as she held it, and her eyes burned with a mixture of pain and fury. This was it. There was no turning back. She would confront him. She would face the mistress. And she would take her place in the courtroom, not just as a woman scorned, but as a force no one could ignore. Even a mistress didn't see it coming. She thought she had all the power, that the husband's loyalty was hers to claim. But she underestimated the strength of someone who had been betrayed, yet refused to break. The black woman's presence in the courtroom, the way she held herself, the quiet confidence in her eyes, it would shake both of them to their core. The husband, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering around him, smiled to himself. He thought today's signing of the divorce papers was just a formality, a simple step toward a life with the mistress. He didn't realize that the backstory, The betrayal, the lies, the hidden evidence was about to explode in his face. The truth he tried to hide for months was ready to step into the light. And so the stage was set. The black woman's heartbreak had turned into strategy. The husband's arrogance had blinded him. The mistress's confidence had masked her vulnerability. Every secret, every lie, every hidden moment led to this point. The courtroom was no longer just a place for papers to be signed. It was a battlefield, and the black woman was ready to claim her victory. Little did they know, what seemed like the start of simple divorce would turn into a story of regret, exposure, and lessons no one in that room would ever forget. The black woman had waited patiently, gathering pieces of the puzzle, watching, listening, and observing. But the moment of truth could not be delayed forever. One evening, when the house was quiet and shadows stretched long across the floor, she discovered everything. Every lie, every betrayal, every secret hidden behind the husband's charming smile. It started with a folder on his laptop, an account she had never noticed before. Curiosity mixed with fear as she clicked it open. What she saw made her stomach twist, her hands tremble, and her heart pound in a way that felt almost violent. There were messages, photos, and videos, all evidence of the affair. The mistress's name appeared repeatedly, each message more intimate than the last. The husband had tried to hide it, but nothing could escape her eyes now. She felt a mix of shock, sadness, and fury. How could someone she loved so deeply betray her like this? How could he sit across from her every day, pretending everything was normal, while he shared secrets and lies with another woman? And the mistress, how had she allowed herself to be part of this? She had smiled, laughed, and flaunted her presence, but now the woman realized it was all part of a game. A dangerous, cruel game. She didn't confront him immediately. She had learned the hard way that anger could be dangerous if not controlled. Instead, she watched, gathering more evidence, listening to conversations, noting patterns. Every text, every call, every meeting was recorded in her mind. She knew the perfect moment would come, a moment when the truth could not be denied, when the betrayal would be exposed for everyone to see. One afternoon, she caught them together accidentally. The mistress was laughing too loudly, touching her husband's arm in a way that was intimate and bold. The husband looked pleased, confident, thinking he was clever, thinking that no one would see. But she saw everything. Every gesture, every glance, every deceitful smile was etched into her memory. Her heart ached, but her mind was clear. This was not just about hurt feelings, it was about justice. She realized that the affair had consequences far beyond personal pain. It had shaken the foundation of trust, respect, and morality. She would not allow him or the mistress to walk away unscathed. She would make sure that the truth came out, that justice was served, and that neither would forget the consequences of their choices. She began planning carefully. Every move was deliberate. She consulted a lawyer who advised her on how to handle the evidence and how to proceed legally. She wasn't just seeking revenge. She was seeking acknowledgement, closure, and fairness. The lawyer explained the power of evidence, the importance of timing, and the potential to turn the tables in court. Meanwhile, the husband remained unaware. He continued his life with a false sense of security, confident in the mistress's loyalty, confident that he had nothing to fear. He laughed, joked, and acted as though everything was fine, oblivious to the storm brewing just beyond his sight. The mistress, too, was blind to the danger, thinking her cleverness would protect her, thinking she could manipulate the situation without consequence. But the black woman had become a force to reckon with. She had transformed her pain into strategy, her heartbreak into focus. The evidence she had gathered was powerful, undeniable, and damning. She knew how to present it, how to strike at the right moment, and how to make sure that the betrayal would not just be revealed, but remembered. One night, as she sat reviewing the files one last time, she felt a sense of calm determination. She was no longer the victim of a man's lies. She was the orchestrator of the truth, the keeper of justice, and the one who would see the consequences unfold. The betrayal had led to this moment, and now the discovery was complete. The next day, when she walked into the courtroom, she carried more than just herself. She carried months of evidence, sleepless nights, and a heart hardened by betrayal, but sharpened by resolve. The husband would see, the mistress would see, and the judge would see. The truth could no longer be hidden, and the moment of reckoning was closer than ever. The courtroom had never felt more charged with anticipation. Every whisper, every glance, every nervous movement mattered. The husband and mistress still thought they were in control, still thought that charm and confidence could hide the truth. But the black woman knew differently. She had discovered everything, and nothing could undo that discovery now. And so, as the judge called the case, the black woman stepped forward, evidence in hand, her eyes locked on the husband. The betrayal that had haunted her days and nights was ready to be exposed. The discovery was complete, the stage was set, and the game of truth and consequences was about to begin. Little did the husband and mistress know, the black woman's patience, planning, and courage had turned the tables. What they thought was a quiet, easy affair was about to become their biggest regret. The day had finally come. The black woman walked into the courtroom with a steady step, her head held high. Her heart was racing, but she hid it well. Every eye in the room turned to her. The husband, the mistress, the judge, even the spectators in the gallery. She was calm on the outside, but inside, a storm of emotions swirled. Anger, hurt, determination, and a thirst for justice. The husband sat at the table, glancing sideways at her. His smug smile was still there, but it faltered slightly as he saw the resolve in her eyes. The mistress squeezed his hand, whispering something, but her confidence seemed less certain now. Something was different this time. The black woman was not the same woman he had left behind. She was stronger, sharper, and ready. The judge entered, his robe flowing, eyes scanning the room with authority. Silence fell immediately. This was no ordinary court session. The air felt heavy, charged with anticipation. Every sound, the click of a camera, the shuffle of papers, the quiet breaths, echoed like a drumbeat. The judge called the case and began speaking, his voice calm, yet commanding attention. This court, he said, is not just here to approve documents. This is a matter of truth, honesty, and accountability. Today, we will examine evidence that cannot be ignored. His eyes locked on the husband and mistress. The husband shifted uncomfortably. The mistress's hand trembled slightly as she gripped his arm. The black woman's lawyer stood and began presenting the case. Carefully, methodically, he laid out the evidence. Texts, photos, emails, and recorded conversations. Each piece was undeniable. The messages, the secret meetings, the lies. It was all there, clearly showing the betrayal that had been hidden for months. The courtroom gasped as the evidence was revealed. The husband's confident smile faded, replaced by unease. The mistress's eyes widened in shock. Every small victory they thought they had, every moment they had believed they were untouchable, was slipping away. The black woman remained calm, watching them, feeling a quiet satisfaction. This was the moment she had been waiting for. But the husband tried to defend himself. He stood, stammering, attempting to explain, to justify, to twist the truth. It was nothing serious, he said. It didn't mean anything. But the judge's stern look cut him off. This court is not here for excuses. Facts speak louder than lies. The mistress tried to intervene, speaking quickly, nervously, attempting to charm the room. But her voice wavered, and her words sounded hollow. Everyone could see the fear creeping into her expression. She realized now that the black woman's careful planning and patience had brought them to a point from which there was no escape. The black woman stood quietly as her lawyer continued. He spoke clearly, simply, but with power. This betrayal was not just emotional. It was calculated. They intended to deceive, to manipulate, and to humiliate. My client deserves justice. She deserves respect, and she will not be silenced. Whispers rippled through the courtroom. People leaned forward, captivated by the unfolding drama. The husband's hands clenched on the table. The mistress looked around nervously, realizing that their confidence had been misplaced. They had underestimated her, and that was their first mistake. The judge paused, looking over the evidence, then at the couple. The facts presented here are clear. The deception, the lies, the betrayal, they cannot be ignored. His words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. The husband swallowed hard. The mistress's hand shook. This was no longer a game. The power had shifted. As the session continued, the tension in the room grew. The black woman's calm exterior contrasted sharply with the husband and mistress's unraveling composure. Every glance, every word, every gesture now carried weight. The evidence was not just proof, it was a weapon, and it had been wielded with precision. The judge leaned forward, his voice lower, more deliberate. I will consider these matters carefully. But let it be known, this court does not tolerate dishonesty. The consequences of betrayal will be addressed, and those who thought they could escape the truth will soon understand their mistake. The husband's confidence crumbled completely. The mistress's face turned pale. For the first time, they realized the depth of the storm they had brought upon themselves. The black woman watched silently, knowing the hardest part of the battle was yet to come, but also knowing that the first victory had been hers. The evidence had been seen, the betrayal exposed, and the courtroom had witnessed the truth. As the judge adjourned for a short break, whispers and murmurs filled the room. Spectators shook their heads in disbelief. The black woman remained composed, her eyes never leaving the husband and mistress. This was just the beginning. The real reckoning, the moment when the consequences would hit them hard, was coming. And when it did, it would be unforgettable. The courtroom doors closed behind the judge. The stage was set for the next act of this drama, a drama of betrayal, exposure, and justice. The husband and mistress were no longer in control. The black woman had discovered the truth, presented it, and now she waited for the final moments when the consequences would be delivered. In that tense silence, one thing was clear. The courtroom was no longer just a place for divorce papers. It was a battlefield, and she was ready to fight. The courtroom was buzzing with tension. Everyone could feel it, the kind of tension that made the air thick, every whisper louder than usual, every glance sharper than a knife. The black woman sat silently, her eyes calm but alert, while her husband and the mistress fidgeted, realizing that the walls they had built with lies were starting to crumble. Her lawyer stood, holding a folder fat with evidence. He spoke clearly, each word measured, as if every syllable carried the weight of months of betrayal. Your Honor, we have more than just text messages and emails. We have pictures, recorded calls, and proof that the defendants knowingly deceived and manipulated my client. The husband's confident posture faltered. He shifted in his chair, his hands sweating, his mind racing. The mistress, who had seemed untouchable just moments ago, clutched his arm, her face pale. She realized now that their secrets were no longer private. Every lie, every betrayal, every hidden moment was about to be exposed in front of the entire courtroom. The lawyer began presenting the evidence piece by piece. First, the text messages, explicit, undeniable, filled with lies and false promises. The husband tried to glance at the black woman, hoping for mercy in her expression, but all he saw was a calm, unshakable resolve. The mistress stared at the floor, unable to meet anyone's eyes, her confidence shattered. Then came the emails. Sent late at night, hidden from view, they revealed planning and deception that no one could deny. The courtroom leaned forward, captivated. Every person in the room felt the shock, the betrayal, the intensity of the moment. The husband's fingers drummed nervously on the table. He wanted to defend himself, but he had no words strong enough to undo the truth. But the most damning piece of evidence was yet to come. The lawyer pressed a button on a small device, and a recording played through the courtroom speakers. The voices were unmistakable, him and the mistress, talking openly about their plans, laughing about the black woman's ignorance, making jokes about how easy it had been to deceive her. The room fell into stunned silence. Gasps echoed from the back rows. The husband's face turned red. The mistress's mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. The black woman felt a small, quiet victory in her chest. This was what she had been waiting for, the moment when the truth could no longer be hidden. She had endured months of pain and humiliation, but now, her perseverance was paying off. The betrayal was clear, undeniable, and publicly exposed. The judge leaned back, his expression serious, taking in the evidence. "This is shocking," he said slowly, his voice steady but full of authority. "The level of deception and manipulation presented here is unacceptable. This court cannot and will not ignore such actions." The husband tried one last desperate attempt. He stood, stammering, "It wasn't like that. But the judge held up a hand, cutting him off. "Silence. The evidence speaks for itself. Lies cannot undo the truth. Manipulation cannot erase responsibility." The mistress's confidence completely vanished. Her face, once filled with pride and arrogance, now showed panic and fear. She whispered something to the husband, but he barely listened, his mind spinning with the realization that their carefully constructed world of lies was collapsing. Whispers spread through the courtroom. Spectators shook their heads, some muttering under their breath. The betrayal had been laid bare in full view of everyone. It was not just personal humiliation, it was a public reckoning. The husband and mistress were no longer in control. The black woman had turned the tables, her patience and intelligence exposing every secret, every lie, and every betrayal. The lawyer closed the folder with a soft but firm snap. "Your Honor, my client has suffered emotional, mental, and personal distress due to these actions. She has been manipulated, deceived, and humiliated. She deserves justice, respect, and accountability from both defendants." The judge nodded slowly. "This court recognizes the severity of these actions. The evidence is clear, and the consequences will follow. Those who believed they could escape truth and responsibility will soon understand the weight of their choices." The husband's shoulders slumped. The mistress stared at him, fear and guilt reflecting in her eyes. They had underestimated the black woman, underestimated her strength, her courage, and her determination. They had believed their secrets would remain hidden forever, but now, the truth was unstoppable. The black woman remained composed, calm, yet internally, a surge of empowerment filled her. She had turned months of pain into strategy, months of betrayal into a victory of truth. She had done more than uncover secrets. She had claimed her power back. As the courtroom broke for a brief recess, the spectators murmured, still stunned by the revelations. The husband and mistress left their seats, their confidence shattered, their arrogance replaced with fear. The black woman walked out, her head held high, knowing that the hardest part of the battle, the exposure of the betrayal, had been won. But the real reckoning was still to come. The consequences, the punishment, and the lessons were yet to be delivered. And when they came, the husband and mistress would understand that betrayal has a price, and the black woman had made sure they would pay it fully. The courtroom was no longer just a place for divorce. It was a stage for truth, exposure, justice. And today, the secrets that had been hidden for months were finally revealed. The courtroom had never felt so tense. Every breath, every shuffle of papers, every whisper seemed louder than usual. The black woman sat calmly, her hands folded in front of her, her eyes never leaving the husband and the mistress. Today was the day the judge would deliver the verdict, the moment when justice would be spoken aloud and consequences would hit like a storm. The husband and mistress sat nervously at the defendant's table. The husband's face, once confident and smug, was pale, his jaw tight. The mistress kept adjusting her hair, her laughter from previous days replaced with anxiety. For the first time, they felt small, powerless in the courtroom where the truth had already been exposed. The judge entered, his robe flowing, and the room immediately fell silent. He carried a folder in his hands, his expression unreadable. Every eye in the room followed him, every ear strained to catch his words. The black woman felt her heart beat faster, not from fear, but from anticipation. Justice, after months of patience, was about to be served. After reviewing all the evidence, hearing testimonies, and considering the actions of both parties, The judge began, his voice firm and steady. This court finds that the betrayal, lies, and deceit were deliberate, calculated, and caused significant emotional distress to the plaintiff. The husband's hands clenched on the table. The mistress swallowed hard, her confidence completely gone. The judge paused, looking at them both. Both the husband and the mistress acted in a way that undermined trust, respect, and the dignity of the black woman. Therefore, this court will impose consequences that reflect the severity of their actions. He opened the folder slowly, as if savoring the moment, his eyes scanning over the documents once more. The first consequence hit like a shockwave. The husband will receive no alimony and is ordered to pay full financial compensation to the plaintiff for emotional distress and betrayal. The room gasped. The husband's face drained of color. He had thought he could escape easily, but reality had arrived with a heavy hand. The judge turned to the mistress. As for the other woman, she will face a fine and a formal public acknowledgement of her role in this betrayal, which will be included in court records. The mistress's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. The camera captured her face in full panic. She had thought she was untouchable, that charm and manipulation would protect her, but the judge's ruling destroyed her illusion completely. The courtroom was silent, the tension palpable. Every spectator leaned forward, captivated by the unfolding drama. The black woman remained composed, though inside, she felt a rush of vindication. Months of pain, sleepless nights, and careful planning had led to this moment. She had been betrayed, humiliated, and deceived, but now she had reclaimed her power. The judge continued, "Furthermore, any attempts by the husband or mistress to undermine or harass the plaintiff in the future will result in immediate legal action, including potential jail time. This court will not tolerate further injustice." The husband's shoulders slumped, the weight of regret pressing down on him. The mistress's hands shook, her confidence shattered completely. The black woman's lawyer smiled slightly, proud but restrained. He knew this was more than just a victory in court. It was a statement that betrayal, lies, and manipulation would not be ignored. A statement that the truth, no matter how long it was hidden, would always find its way into the light. The husband finally whispered something to the mistress, but it was too late. The verdict had been delivered, the consequences were clear, and the damage had been done. Their world of arrogance and deceit had crumbled, leaving them with regret and humiliation. For the first time, they understood the weight of their actions. The black woman had outsmarted them, not with anger or revenge, but with patience, intelligence, and determination. The judge adjourned the session, but the impact of the verdict lingered like smoke in the room. People whispered, shaking their heads at the twist of events. Cameras captured every reaction: the husband's despair, the mistress's fear, and the black woman's calm triumph. It was a moment that would be remembered, a lesson in justice and consequences. As she left the courtroom, the black woman felt a sense of relief mixed with empowerment. She had not only survived betrayal, but had turned it into a victory. She had shown that patience, strategy, and strength could overcome even the deepest wounds. The husband and mistress, meanwhile, walked away in silence, their arrogance replaced with the heavy burden of regret. For the black woman, this was more than a legal victory. It was a personal triumph. She had been betrayed, yes, but she had also discovered her own power. And as she stepped out into the sunlight after months of struggle, she knew that life could not hurt her as deeply again. She had faced the storm and emerged stronger, wiser, and victorious. The courtroom drama had reached its climax. The betrayal had been exposed, the secrets revealed, and the verdict delivered. And for the husband and the mistress, the lesson was clear. Never underestimate the strength of someone who has been wronged, and never believe that lies can hide the truth forever. The courtroom doors had closed, the verdict delivered, and the storm of betrayal had finally passed. For the black woman, the relief was real but quiet. She had been through months of heartbreak, lies, and humiliation, yet here she was, standing tall, her dignity intact, her strength undeniable. The husband and mistress had been exposed, and justice had been served. But now, it was time for her life to begin again. As she stepped outside into the sunlight, a gentle breeze brushed against her face. For the first time in a long time, she felt free. The weight of deception, manipulation, and secrecy no longer pressed on her shoulders. Every step she took was lighter, not just physically, but emotionally. The world seemed different now, brighter, fuller, and filled with possibilities she had almost forgotten existed. She thought back to all the nights she had spent awake, replaying conversations, analyzing every lie, and wondering how someone she trusted so deeply could betray her. Those nights had been painful, but they had also been lessons. They had taught her resilience, patience, and the power of inner strength. She had learned that betrayal, while devastating, could also be transformed into empowerment. The husband and mistress, meanwhile, were living in their own private storm. The husband's arrogance had been replaced with regret. He could no longer hide behind charm or lies. Every glance at his reflection reminded him of his mistakes, and the public acknowledgement of his betrayal haunted him. The mistress faced humiliation as well, realizing that her role in the betrayal would not be forgotten. For both, life had changed in ways they could not control. Back in her own space, the black woman began to rebuild. She focused on her career, her passions, and her personal growth. She reconnected with friends she had neglected during the months of turmoil. Every new day became a reminder that she was not defined by the betrayal she had endured, but by the courage she had shown in facing it. She also discovered a new sense of confidence in relationships. Trust had been broken once, yes, but she had learned to discern character, to set boundaries, and to protect her heart without closing it off entirely. The betrayal had taught her what she truly deserved, and she would not settle for anything less. Her self-worth, once shaken, had been restored stronger than ever. The experience left her with a quiet sense of triumph. It was not a triumph of vengeance, but of truth, dignity, and justice. She had allowed herself to be wronged, yes, but she had not allowed the betrayal to define her life. Every step she took forward was a testament to her resilience. Every smile a declaration that she had reclaimed her life. Her story soon became an example for others who had faced betrayal. Friends, family, and even strangers admired the way she had handled the situation, not with anger alone, but with strategy, patience, and unwavering determination. She had shown that even when the world seemed cruel, one could rise above, reclaim control, and create a new beginning. Months passed, and life continued. The husband and mistress faded from her daily concerns, their regret now their own burden to bear. She focused on growth, happiness, and the pursuit of her dreams. Her past no longer held power over her. She had faced betrayal, exposed the truth, and survived with her dignity intact. And in that survival, she had found her strength. One evening, as she sat quietly in her home, reflecting on the journey, she realized how far she had come. The tears she had shed, the anger she had felt, and the sleepless nights were no longer wounds. They were scars of strength. Every moment of pain had been transformed into power. She had survived the storm, and she had emerged victorious. The black woman knew that life would always have challenges, but she also knew this. No one could take her dignity, her courage, or her ability to rise above betrayal. She had learned to stand tall, to trust wisely, and to value herself above all else. And with that knowledge, she walked forward into her new life, stronger, wiser, and unshakable. The storm had passed, the betrayal had been exposed, and justice had been served. Life after the storm was no longer about revenge or regret. It was about freedom, empowerment, and the unbreakable strength of a woman who refused to be broken.